Long before the packed stadiums, before the Ballon d'Or trophies, before the endless debates about the greatest players who ever lived, there was a morning that almost nobody remembers. No cameras were there to capture it. No reporters stood nearby, taking notes. No television crew followed the family around, sensing that they were witnessing the beginning of something extraordinary. To the rest of the world, it looked like an ordinary goodbye. To a mother, it felt like her heart was being asked to walk away. Years later, when Cristiano Ronaldo became one of the most recognizable people on the planet, millions would tell his story. They would talk about goals, records, championships, rivalries, and moments of greatness. They would analyze statistics and compare achievements. But if you really want to understand Cristiano Ronaldo, you have to begin somewhere else. You have to begin before the fame, before the pressure, before the money. Before anyone outside a small island in the Atlantic Ocean had ever heard his name, you have to begin with a family, because that's where every great story starts. Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro was born on the island of Madeira, Portugal, a place of breathtaking beauty and harsh realities. If you've ever seen photographs of Madeira, you've noticed the dramatic cliffs and the landscapes that seem almost too beautiful to be real. But beautiful places are not always easy places. Behind every postcard image are people trying to build a life and survive challenges. The Aveiro family knew those challenges well. They weren't wealthy. Far from it. Money wasn't something that could be spent without thought. Every expense mattered. Every decision mattered. The family learned early how to stretch what little they had. Yet when people talk about those years, they rarely begin with what was missing. They talk about what was there. The laughter, the meals shared together, the love, the loyalty, the feeling that no matter how difficult life became, family came first. Cristiano grew up surrounded by that. His father, José Dines Aveiro, worked hard and loved football. His mother, Maria Dolores, carried the kind of quiet strength that often goes unnoticed until many years later, when people realize her sacrifice. Like countless mothers around the world, she spent her life worrying about her children, protecting them, and pretending to be stronger. Children don't always understand those sacrifices when they're young, but they feel them. Cristiano felt them. He noticed things. The conversations adults thought he wasn't listening to. The moments when money became a source of stress. The days when everyone seemed a little more worried than usual. Children notice far more than adults realize. For Cristiano, football became a refuge, not a career, not a future profession. A refuge. When he had a ball at his feet, the world felt different, lighter, simpler, more hopeful. The worries that lived inside the walls of the house disappeared for a while. The uncertainty disappeared. The pressure disappeared. There was only the game, and for a young boy, that was enough. People often assume that greatness begins with ambition. But that's not usually true. Greatness often begins with love. Cristiano didn't fall in love with success first. He fell in love with football, the game itself. The freedom of it, the joy of Italiano. The feeling of chasing a ball until sunset before darkness forced everyone home. Those who knew him as a child remember something else too. He cared. Deeply. Sometimes too deeply. If his team lost, he took it personally. If he made a mistake, he thought about it long after everyone else had forgotten. There are stories about how emotional he could be after losing. Some teased him, but looking back, those moments reveal something important. The world would later describe him as relentless and competitive. The roots were already there, not in confidence, but in caring. Because people who care deeply about something are often willing to suffer deeply for it too. That was Cristiano. He wasn't dreaming about private jets or global recognition. He was a kid who loved football, and that love started opening doors. Coaches noticed him. People talked about him. Opportunities began appearing, at first small, then slightly bigger, then bigger still. And eventually, a possibility emerged that felt almost impossible to comprehend. Lisbon. For most, Lisbon is simply a city. For Cristiano, it represented an entirely different world, a different life, a different version of himself. The opportunity was exciting, but excitement wasn't the only emotion in the room. Fear was there too. A lot of it, because accepting meant leaving everything behind. His home, his family, his friends, the familiar streets he had walked his entire life. It's easy to look back now and say the decision was obvious. Of course he should have gone. Of course it was worth it. But certainty only exists when we know the ending. At the time, nobody knew the ending. Not Cristiano, not his parents. All they knew was that saying yes meant stepping into the unknown. And sometimes, the unknown is terrifying. Imagine being a teenager and realizing that your dream requires you to leave behind everyone you love. Imagine watching your mother trying not to cry because she doesn't want you to see how much she's hurting. Imagine pretending to be brave because you're afraid that if you admit how scared you are, you might lose the courage to go. That's what that goodbye felt like. For years, the world would celebrate his victories, but very few would think about the cost. The cost of leaving, the cost of separation, the cost of chasing something that might not work. That morning, as Madeira slowly disappeared, Cristiano wasn't heading toward greatness. He was heading toward loneliness, toward homesickness, toward doubt, toward some of the most difficult years of his young life. He didn't know it then, but the next chapter would test him in ways football never could. Because talent was only part of the journey. The harder challenge would be discovering who he really was when nobody was there. The first few weeks in Lisbon were nothing like the dream. That's something people rarely talk about when they tell stories like this. Years later, after the trophies, after the headlines, after the world had turned Cristiano Ronaldo into a symbol of success, it became easy to look back and imagine that everything unfolded exactly the way it was supposed to. As if one opportunity naturally led to another. As if the path had always been clear. As if destiny had simply opened the right doors. But real life almost never feels that way when you're living it. When you're inside the story, there is no music playing. There is no narrator explaining that everything will work out. There is no guarantee that the sacrifice will be worth it. There is only uncertainty. And for a young Cristiano Ronaldo, uncertainty became a daily companion. The truth is that Lisbon didn't welcome him with open arms. It challenged him. Every single day. For the first time, he was completely removed from everything that had made him feel safe. Back in Madeira, he knew every street. He knew every face. He knew where he belonged. In Lisbon, he was just another kid trying to earn a place in a system filled with talented players who wanted exactly the same thing. And that realization can be frightening, because talent feels special when you're growing up. Then one day you arrive somewhere new and discover everyone is talented. Suddenly, talent is no longer enough. Now you have to prove something else. Character, discipline, resilience. The ability to survive when things become difficult. Cristiano was still just a teenager, but life had already started teaching him lessons that many adults struggle to learn. At night, after training sessions ended and the noise of the day finally disappeared, the loneliness would often arrive. Loneliness rarely works dramatically. It sneaks into ordinary moments. A meal that doesn't taste like home. A conversation that ends too quickly. A holiday spent away from family. A quiet room at the end of a long day. A memory that appears without warning. And suddenly you're no longer thinking about where you are. You're thinking about where you wish you were. Cristiano missed his family. He missed Madeira. He missed the comfort of hearing familiar voices. Most of all, he missed his mother. Years later, he would still speak about her with love and gratitude. People talk about his work ethic, but behind it was a mother who believed. A mother who had allowed her son to leave because she knew keeping him close might cost him the future he deserved. That kind of sacrifice leaves a mark, and Cristiano carried it with him every day. Whenever training became difficult, whenever doubt appeared, because there is a unique kind of pressure that comes from knowing someone sacrificed for your dream. You don't want to waste it. Maybe that's why Cristiano pushed himself the way he did. He was trying to become the person his family believed he could be. Cristiano wasn't just competing against other players. He was competing against fear, against uncertainty, against the possibility of returning home a failure. Sometimes people assume confidence comes first, but that's rarely true. Many driven people are fueled by a deep fear of regret. Cristiano trained like someone who never wanted to ask himself, what if? The coaches noticed the hunger, the refusal to settle. One extra drill, one extra repetition, one extra chance to improve. In reality, it often comes from the determination to never feel helpless again. And yet, despite all his effort, life was about to remind him that some challenges cannot be solved through hard work alone. Cristiano was diagnosed with a heart condition. Even today, it's difficult to imagine what that moment must have felt like. He had left his childhood behind, endured homesickness, accepted loneliness. And now, there was a question hanging over football. For the first time, the dream wasn't being threatened by critics or failure. It was being threatened by his own body. The procedure was successful, but the emotional impact deepened his urgency. He understood that nothing was guaranteed. Not talent, not health, not opportunity. Once you truly understand that, you begin approaching life differently. You stop waiting. You start acting. The years that followed would prove how powerful that mindset could become. The lonely kid from Madeira was becoming obsessed with possibility. But life still had one more lesson waiting for him. One that would hurt more than loneliness. Because while he fought for a future, someone he loved was losing a battle. And when that chapter finally arrived, it would change him forever. There are moments in life that divide everything into two parts. The person you were before and the person you become afterward. Most of the time, we don't recognize those moments when they're happening. We only understand them years later, looking back. Connecting events that seemed unrelated at the time. A phone call, a conversation, a goodbye, a loss. Something happens, and without realizing it, the ground beneath your feet shifts forever. For Cristiano Ronaldo, one of those moments arrived while the world was beginning to notice his talent. From the outside, everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. His performances were improving, his reputation was growing. For the first time in his life, the dream no longer felt impossible. It felt close enough to touch. But life has a way of reminding us that victories and heartbreak often exist side by side. While Cristiano was building a future, his father was fighting a battle he could not seem to win. José Diniz Aveiro had been struggling with alcoholism for years. People often tell that part of the story in a single sentence. But real life is never that simple, because behind that sentence is a family. Behind that sentence is a son. Behind that sentence is love. Cristiano never stopped loving his father, not when things became difficult, not when disappointment entered the picture, because that's not how love works. Especially between parents and children. We like stories where relationships are easy to understand. Life is rarely that clean. Most families carry contradictions. Most families carry wounds. Most families carry things they never fully talk about. Cristiano admired his father. He loved him. He wanted him to be proud. And maybe that's one of the reasons this chapter hurts so much. Because every child carries a small hope inside them. The hope that the people they love will be there to see what they become. The hope that one day they can look at their parents and say, "We made it. Not I made it. We made it." Cristiano never forgot. Not the island. Not the family. Not the people who helped him get there. As his career continued to accelerate, opportunities began arriving faster. People were talking about him now, not just coaches, not just scouts. Then came the summer of 2003, a moment that would completely alter the trajectory of his life. Sporting CP faced Manchester United. At first glance, it looked like just another game. But sometimes, the most important days in our lives arrive disguised as ordinary days. Cristiano played fearlessly. Fearlessness isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision not to let fear decide what happens next. By the end of the match, something unusual had happened. The Manchester United players themselves were talking about him. Before long, Sir Alex Ferguson made his decision. Manchester United wanted Cristiano Ronaldo, the boy from Madeira, the kid who left home carrying uncertainty. Now one of the biggest clubs on earth wanted him. And yet, even during one of the happiest periods of his life, a shadow remained. His father. People assume achievement solves everything. It doesn't. There are certain pains that success cannot touch. Cristiano could train harder. He could score goals. but he could not fight his father's battle for him. Then, in September 2005, the phone call came. The kind of phone call that instantly divides life into before and after. José Denis Savero had died. Cristiano was only 20 years old. 20. Most people at 20 are still needing their parents, and suddenly, one of the most important people in his life was gone. Forever. Death takes possibilities, conversations that will never happen. It leaves empty spaces where future memories should have been. Years later, Cristiano would speak about the pain. The wound never truly disappeared. It healed, but it never vanished. For a while, people noticed changes, something deeper. It was as if grief had accelerated his maturity. Many people saw obsession. Maybe what they were really seeing was urgency. The urgency of someone who had learned that life does not wait. The young man carrying doubt was transforming into someone the world had never seen before. A global phenomenon. And when that moment finally arrived, the boy from Madeira would no longer belong to a small island. He would belong to the world.
For years, Cristiano Ronaldo kept moving forward as if standing still was never an option. Sometimes people look at extraordinary lives and assume there must have been a moment when everything finally became easy. A moment when the doubts disappeared, the pressure faded, and the struggle ended. But that moment never really came. Not for Cristiano. The truth is that every time he reached a new level, the world simply raised the bar again. When he arrived at Manchester United, people said he was talented but immature. When he became one of the best young players in England, people said he would never become truly great. When he started scoring goals at an incredible rate, people said it wouldn't last. When he won major trophies, people said he benefited from great teammates. The target kept moving. The criticism kept changing. The expectations kept growing. Cristiano's rise at Manchester United was not just the story of a football player becoming better. It was the story of a young man transforming himself. The skinny teenager from Madeira was becoming stronger, faster, more disciplined, more complete. Yet beneath all of that growth, the same emotional engine continued to drive him. The same fear of wasting opportunity. What it couldn't fully see was the boy still living underneath. The boy who had once stared out of an airplane window while leaving home. The boy who had missed his mother so much that some nights felt endless. The boy who had lost his father before he was ready. That boy never disappeared. He simply learned how to carry his pain differently. In 2008, Cristiano won his first Ballon d'Or. To most people, it looked like the arrival of a superstar. Somewhere, far away from the cameras, there was a mother who remembered the boy before the world knew his name. Then came one of the defining rivalries in sports history, Lionel Messi. Then came Real Madrid, a move so massive it felt like the beginning of an entirely new era. Goals, Champions League titles, records that once seemed untouchable. Still, there remained one dream that felt unfinished. Portugal, his country, his people. Then, disaster struck. Cristiano suffered an injury early in the match. He could barely continue. Unable to play, Cristiano remained on the sidelines. Every camera captured his emotions. And when Portugal finally won, something happened. It wasn't just celebration, it was release. A journey that had survived loneliness, homesickness, fear, loss, doubt, and countless moments when quitting would have been easier. The boy never stopped walking. That's really what this story's about. Not perfection, persistence. Because deep down, this isn't really a football story. It's a human story. Somewhere in Madeira, there was once a child staring at a future he could not possibly imagine. He couldn't see any of it. All he could see was the next step. The reminder that extraordinary lives are often built by ordinary people who refuse to give up.